Wondering what's next in your business or personal life? Welcome to Success to Significance, Life After Breaking Through Glass Ceilings, a podcast dedicated to helping you with all of life's challenges, discoveries, and opportunities. Whether you're seeking a new career, retirement, or simply wanting to make an impact in your community or the world. Join Jen Duplessis and her guests as they explore how to start, what to do when you're in the thick of a change or growth, and how to leave a mark in this world after breaking through your next achievement. You are moments away from the aha you've been seeking.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Success to Significance, Life After Breaking Through Glass Ceilings. I'm your host, Jen Duplessis, and I'm so excited that you are here with us today. Actually, I do have to make this change, don't I? I'm your host, Lady Jen Duplessis. If you want to know more about that, you have to go follow me on Facebook. That'll be new for me to do. This is actually my first podcast as a lady. So how exciting is that? Not that I wasn't a lady before, but my guest today is, I know, he's laughing at me. My guest today is Brad Walsh. He is the father of two beautiful young women and the husband to an amazing, inspiring woman. He is a photographer, a published #1 international best-selling author, and a podcast host and producer himself, who had found himself wanting to inspire others during the pandemic. And it's just grown exponentially since then. And that's when he started something called Empowerography, which is a combination of empowering and photography. I'm sure you all know that. And what his goal is to empower, elevate, and educate by amplifying the voices of women all over the world. And that's what his podcast does. So we're going to talk about that today. So if you're a man, pass this along to your spouse. And if you're a woman, and I shouldn't be like that way to say that, right? So if you have a woman in your life, pass this along to a woman in your life. And we're super happy to have you here as a guest with us, Brad. And I know it's a long time coming because I've messed up on our appointment scheduling a little bit. So thank you for your patience.
Oh my gosh, Lady Jen. Wow, that's a huge accomplishment. So congratulations on that. I know you've had a lot going on. So congratulations on all the things that you've had going on, Jen. You should be very proud. And I am honored, absolutely honored to be here with you today. Thank you so much for providing this opportunity for me to be here on your platform and speak about what I'm doing in the world and the mission that I am on, or the mission that we are on as a community to help elevate women and amplify their voices. So I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, well, my pleasure. And we were introduced by a colleague, I think. I can't even remember how we got introduced. Yes. But we were introduced by a colleague, and when we had our first call, we couldn't stop talking. We just were having so much fun. That's right. And in fact, I even remember saying to you, hey, I don't want to ask you any more questions because I don't want to have anything left to ask you during the podcast.
We did. We hit it off very, very well, our first conversation.
Yeah, I love it. So tell us a little bit about one or many of the, some of the glass ceilings that you've had to break through, and understanding the context behind this particular podcast is that, we all are breaking through ceilings, all glass ceilings all the time. This is not a woman thing. This is not a financial woman thing. This is all people for all different reasons, whether it's personal or business, relationships, health, wealth. Tell us a little bit about some breakthroughs that you've had. And I'm sure one of these was during the pandemic when you had this breakthrough that said, I really want to spotlight women as well. But I'll let you take it with your story.
Yeah. Yeah, that was probably the biggest one, I would say, to date, actually, is during the pandemic. And, I had my photography business, and I was 2 years into my photography journey. And of course, the world shut down. And obviously, I couldn't run my business. I couldn't be booking sessions. And a big part of my photography work is empowering women through boudoir photography. So it was tough to shift into that and to be stuck in this place where, okay, well, what do I do now? Like, what am I going to do with myself? And I had started the podcast, we'll call it a dress rehearsal. Prior to that, the year before, and I interviewed 7 or 8 friends of mine, women who worked in my industry. They were photographers and makeup artists. And so I had just started putting the content out there, and my business started to pick up traction. And then, of course, we fast forward to March, and the world shut down. And So I thought, instead of sitting around complaining like so many people were doing in the world about what was going on in the world, I decided to flip the narrative and look at this gift of time that we've been given and thought, why don't I reignite the podcast? I've got this time on my hands. I might as well do something good, put something good out into the world instead of all the negativity that's being spewed out into the world through media, through people. And it was just that's the biggest glass ceiling for sure, is breaking through that, realizing, wait a minute, there's something else good that I can do here. So I began reaching out to women on Instagram and sharing what my idea was behind the platform and what I wanted to do with it and where I wanted to take it. And Jen, the response was just incredible. Women were so happy to hear that a man had created a platform such as this to help elevate women and amplify their voices through sharing their stories, that it turned into this amazing thing. You and I got introduced this way, where the women started saying, Brad, I've got a friend, she'd be a great fit for your podcast. Brad, I know someone should be a great fit for your podcast, to where we are now. And it's just been amazing. So that was probably the biggest glass ceiling for me to break through, for sure.
Yeah. So I want to ask you a more challenging question about this. If I were online and I had a guy, reach out to me and go, hey, I'm a photographer and I want to amplify women, I don't know how I would respond to that. So tell me what challenges you had there. I'm sure you had some people, really, sometimes all it is that it just takes one or two people to spread the word for you. So did you have challenges in approaching that? Because here you are doing boudoir pictures, and people are going, oh yeah, sure, you want to do this.
That, you know what? It's funny you say that, because that was also something with the podcast too, where some women were, of course, and understandably, I get it, skeptical. It's like, well, when I was reaching out for the podcast, saying, what's this guy's angle? What's he trying to do here? Really? A man hosting a platform? So it was just establishing that level of trust, and connecting. And of course, I mean, I would send a link so that they could check it out and listen to what I was doing with the podcast, so that they could hear that, no, this isn't just about this guy playing some angle to get connected with me and have me on his pod. So yeah, I experienced that. And with the photography thing too, I mean, like you said, it was more of a, when I first started, I started the business actually before I left corporate, and I was doing free shoots for friends, so that they could see, so like had the content to create to then share with others. Right. So it was establishing those relationships and creating that content with friends first, so that I had the proof that, hey, no, this guy's legit. He's a photographer. This is really what he's all about, empowering women. And then part of my process when I book clients is getting on a phone call with them. From the point of contact is when I start establishing that level of trust, because of course, as you mentioned, women are showing up for photo shoots and they're very vulnerable. So again, it goes back to, what's this guy's angle? Why is he is he really about empowering women? And so what I do is I establish that level of trust where I set up a pre-shoot consultation call. And so that's where the whole establishment of trust starts, right from that first email that I get from a potential client, is establishing that and getting on the phone with them, finding out why they want to do this, what's the purpose for them, and just continuing to keep those lines of communication open with my potential clients. I tell all my, if you have any questions, please feel free. You can reach out. I'm more than happy to jump on a call with you anytime to help answer any questions you might have. So establishing the trust was the biggest piece of that, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even in the conversation that I had with you, the first conversation that we had, there was a lot of trust that was built, because I'm not one to offer all of these connections and referrals to people, unless I feel confident that it's a good representation of my reputation as well. And I was just left and right going, oh my gosh, all these people need to have you. This women group I'm in, this one, Michelle Jewsbury, she's been on this podcast as well, with Unsilenced Voices. She was an abused woman. And, you know, and it's elevating. When you say elevating, it's elevating the confidence that women have in themselves and in their ability, no matter what they've been through in their lives. And I think that that's, you know, really powerful. And so I would say to, you know, if you're listening to this, you want to, if you're involved in a women's organization, this is someone that you want to have, you know, get involved if you can, to really spotlight the beauty of women. And it doesn't have to be the boudoir pictures. I know that's your specialty, but it can just be elevating them at an event and making them feel good about themselves. And it's one thing to have photography, to, okay, get my photography done, so it's done, thank you very much, you know, make sure it's good for professional reasons. But it's another thing to have something that makes you feel proud about who you are. And you know, and I mentioned to you that I had light boudoir photos done of me when I was 48 years old. So that was 11 years ago, almost 12 years ago. And we keep it in a closet. I don't know, it's just one of those things. My husband likes it, it's huge, it's in a closet. But I realized at that time, I bought my daughter a similar session because she was 25. And I said, you know, honey, I wish I had this when I was 25. And, you know, to be able to look back and say, wow, look at the confidence I had, look at how I was, you know, because we just don't remember who we are sometimes in those past, you know,
that's right,
the experiences of the glass ceilings we've gone through. We have cuts and scrapes and whatevers. And, you know, and I think that's super powerful. So, can you tell us a story about a woman that, you know, came to you and, you know, because I know that women are coming to you because they're saying, you know, hey, I want to exploit myself, you know, to myself, to my husband, to my spouse. But tell us a story about someone who just lacked the confidence, and that was a confidence booster. Like, wow, the change that you saw in this woman.
That's, you know what, Jen, to be honest, that's almost every client that comes through the door, to be completely honest, because I mean, it's first, I think that's a beautiful gift that you gave your daughter. I truly do. That is incredible. And I believe that every single woman on this planet should experience a boudoir shoot at least once in their life. And what I always tell my clients as well, or potential clients, is that the images, yes, those are great. And that's something you will always have. That's a keepsake for you to look back on. But those are just a byproduct. What it's about is the experience of how you feel in that 1 hour, 90-minute session with me, getting your images taken and experiencing and seeing yourself in a light that you don't normally get to see yourself in. That's what it's about. But almost every single woman that comes through the door isn't confident because, I mean, they're stepping in front of a camera of basically a stranger, and they're standing in their bra and underwear in front of a stranger. So it is unnerving. It is getting completely vulnerable. But I can tell you that with almost every session I have shot, by the end of the session, let's back that up. So when they come in, yes, of course, they're very nervous. They're getting their hair done. They're getting treated like a queen. They're getting their hair done, their makeup done. My makeup artist is taking care of them. We're having conversation throughout just to keep things light and to get them more comfortable because, again, they're very vulnerable. They're nervous, understandably. So it's about, again, it goes back to establishing the trust, having that conversation, just continually talking with them. So then when we start shooting, we start to get into it. I make it a point to make sure that my clients are comfortable during the shoot, that I show them the back of the camera to see what we're capturing. A lot of photographers don't do that. They don't want to show the unedited images, but I think it's incredibly important because my clients need to know that they're doing well, that what we're capturing is beautiful. So I'm constantly showing my clients the back of the camera during the shoot to say, hey, you're doing amazing. Look at what we're capturing here. And then I've found more often than not, by the time we get to the end of the shoot, and I'm like, okay, we're done. We've got enough. That's a wrap. Oh, well, I was just really getting into this. I was just loving this, and we're done. What? So that transformation, Jen, is just so beautiful and so powerful. It's absolutely incredible to see that. And you can see when they walk out, it's like they're a different person. It's this air of confidence about them that they feel good about themselves. And that all the nerves and all of that stuff has just melted away. It's an incredible thing to witness, truly.
Yeah. And I can imagine, if it's not the boudoir pictures, but, just pictures at an event where it's a charity event for women or
Yeah.
women that have been trafficked or, or have been through abuse,
Yeah.
etc. That, there's a transformation just in that as well, just in the way that you're doing that. So I have a question for you based on the fact that, so you're in Ontario, for those of you that don't recognize the accent. There's just enough. I've learned the accent of Canadians now. I already got it, but I know you're in Ontario. So, you guys had it really rough during the pandemic because, even here in the US, we were sort of open and you guys were still closed up and all of that.
Yeah.
It took forever. Has the podcast or help us understand this? Because if we're saying, oh, well, if I'm listening and I'm in Australia, and I'm going, well, how do I get my picture taken? Do I have to come to you? Do you come to us? How is this going to work? And can it work for everybody? But what has the podcast done for you as far, obviously it's exposure. It sounds to me, and seeing, this is what I want our listeners to understand, is that you truly are interested in empowering, elevating, and educating women. Because if you weren't, you wouldn't be doing a podcast that would limit you to your geographic area. Right. And then you'd say, oh, well, it's not really giving me anything back, so I won't do it. So I love that it is. But tell us a little bit about, what it's like to work with you and how the semantics of it.
How it is to work with me as a photographer or in the podcast, or
both? No, as a photographer. Yeah, as a photographer, can anybody work with you? How does that work? How do you actually work with you? How would one work with you if they wanted to?
Well, I have not had the pleasure or opportunity to travel elsewhere to photograph women, but of course, I would absolutely be open to it if women are looking to get their sessions done. All of my clients have, of course, been local. So the process for that is they just reach out via email and we have a conversation. They tell me what we're looking for. Like I said, that pre-shoot consult is an absolute part of my process. We have to go through that because I want to know why they're doing this shoot. That is one of the most important pieces for me, is knowing why you want to do this. And then of course, I want to get an idea of what you're looking for out of the shoot. What do you want to gain? What are you trying to gain out of the shoot? How do you want your images to look? I give my client as much input into the shoot and what they want out of it as possible. This is about celebrating them. So I want them to have full say in how this shoot looks and what they're looking for. So contact me through email and we'll do the pre-shoot consult. But yeah, I would completely be open to traveling to photograph other women. Absolutely.
Well, and that's what we're talking about, is having you come to an event of ours in August in Pittsburgh, because there's not, as you travel from Ontario down, it's not that far, and just being there to photograph beautiful women that are, coming together. And we're and this is Women of Impact and Innovation International. So we have women coming from all over the place who are, just making an impact in the world, creating innovation for other women. We're supporting charities for women and girls as well, in their businesses and in their personal lives. So, it makes sense. And I love telling that we're entertaining that, so that those that are listening and say, we could have you do that kind of thing, for our event too. So I think that's great. Let's transition over, as we finish up our time together. Let's transition over to your podcast. I'm sure there are women that are listening that are saying, well, I want to be empowered. I'm a woman. I could be on the podcast. What are you looking for? And of course, everybody does that for me too. Everybody wants to be on the podcast. What are you looking for a guest on your podcast, other than the fact that they are a woman?
I'm looking for a story. The podcast is all about telling women's stories. And I believe that every single woman on this planet has a story to tell, and that they need to get their voices heard. They need to share that story. It is so important, because I can absolute guarantee you that someone out there will resonate with your story. So we need to get your story out there. So I want to provide that platform for you to share your story. And I mean, there has to be obviously an energetic alignment. We have to be able to hold a conversation together. So I always hop on a discovery call. As you said off the top, Jen, you and I connected very, very well off the beginning. It was like just magic right away. So I want to make sure that we connect on an energetic level. So I'll set up a discovery call with every one of my potential guests. But I mean, I'm open to having anybody, any women on the podcast that feel their story needs to be heard, that are ready to share their story. They're ready to step up onto that stage and share their story.
Yeah. And I love that. I just attended an event in Dallas where there were a lot of women that were I spoke at the event as an empowered woman, and but there were a lot of women that were in a book, right? And they're all immigrants who have, shared their story on how they, became successful over in the, here in the United States. And just went up to Times Square where my book was highlighted, up on the big Jumbotron in Times Square. And many of the women that were there, they were telling these stories. One was called Warrior Women, and it was a collection of women that were, warriors and in what they're doing, in life. And then another was another collaborative book of women who have, stories of overcoming unbelievable odds. And, every one of the women in both of those books, all three books, right, total, are great candidates, for telling your story, in a different medium. So I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
Last question I have for you is, does your wife have a story? Do your daughters have a story that is empowering for you? Does it inspire you to do this?
Absolutely. Yeah. My daughters, their story, they were both bullied in elementary school. So that story right there has shaped who they have become. And they're a big part of the inspiration behind the podcast, and my wife as well. I mean, they've all three of them have dealt with and still deal with body image struggles and things like that, as a lot of women do, right? So the three of those women are a huge part of the inspiration. And then my mom and my grandmother are the foundation for all of it, because those two women raised me. And so these 5 women, they are the true inspiration behind all of it. They are why I do what I do.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. You're just surrounded by all kinds of estrogen all day long.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
All day long. Well, God bless you for staying with it, because, my husband has to just deal with me, not all the rest of it. So. That's good. I love that.
I'm sure you're a delight to deal with, Jen.
Okay. So how does someone reach out to you to be a guest on the podcast, or to have you, do photos for them or attend an event for them? What is the best way for them to reach out so that we can have that in the show notes for you?
Yeah, the best way to get a hold of me is through my email address, empowerographypodcast@gmail.com. They can reach out to me on Facebook, Brad Walsh, or they can send me a DM on Instagram at empowerographypodcast.
I love it. Yeah. And you've got some great, and I've joined your group and followed you, followed along with that as well. So I love that.
Yes.
All right. Any parting thoughts that you have for us today?
Just know that everyone has a voice, and it needs to be heard. It needs to be shared, because someone out there will benefit from your story, from your journey, from whatever it is you're putting out into the world. So don't be afraid to share your voice. Please stand up and share your voice. It needs to be heard.
Beautiful. That's brilliant too. Thank you so much. And I love that it's coming from a man, just because, I mean, I live with someone who just adores me, and I know that you adore women, and thank you. Thank you for doing that and being that inspiration for us. So it's been a pleasure having you on here, Brad. And as I promised in the green room, I promise I'm going to get you all those introductions as soon as I have a few extra minutes. And, I look forward to when this gets released, so that we can share it out in the world.
Jen, thank you so very much for this incredible opportunity. I appreciate you, and congratulations on all of your successes. The books, becoming Lady Jen, I think it's absolutely incredible. So congratulations on all of your successes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So until next time, we'll catch you next time on Success to Significance, and be sure to follow us on YouTube. Go subscribe to us there, and click on some of the links below if you want to have a strategy session with me, that we have some other information on there of upcoming events. We would love the opportunity to meet you all in person and take our relationship online, offline, get to know each other better. We'll talk to you next time.
You've been listening to Success to Significance with Jen Duplessis, the #1 podcast for people wanting to give more value and make an impact. Loved this episode? Be sure to subscribe right now at www.jenduplessis.com/S2S for more stories, strategies, and thoughts to help you gain significance and success. And if you like what we're doing, don't forget to give us a rating and review so we can continue to bring you the best content possible. Join us next week for another breakthrough episode. Thank you for listening.